My name's Kael. I'm 39. For 2 decades, I climbed the ladder, step by bloody step, and became the head of cybersecurity at Veltrax Technologies. I wasn't just some guy behind a desk. I designed the firewalls, built a threat detection system, even stopped a ransomware attack that could have tanked the whole damn company. Veltrax was my life. I sacrificed birthdays, vacations, relationships. I gave it everything. And for a long time, I thought that loyalty meant something. Then came the virus. Not a cyber threat, a real one. At first, I thought it was a flu. I kept pushing. Long nights, back-to-back meetings, red-eye flights. But then I collapsed at my desk. Woke up in a hospital bed with IVs in both arms and a doctor standing over me. "You got viral myocarditis," he said. "Your heart's inflamed. One wrong move and you could drop." I laughed. Dark humor is how I cope. Great. So I can't die, but I also can't live. They made me stay. My phone blew up with concerned texts. Well, at first. By day 4, the silence from my office was deafening. Day 6, a hospital nurse brought in a tablet. "You've got a video message," she said. From him, Sylvan Drake, CEO, formerly my friend. Or so I thought. He looked good. Freshly shaved, expensive suit, backdrop of the Veltrax skyline behind him, like a corporate commercial. "Kael, this isn't easy. We've all been praying for your recovery. But with your absence, operations have slowed. Clients are getting nervous. We can't afford instability right now." He paused, looked straight into the camera like he was delivering a eulogy. "I regret to say this, Kael, but as of today, we're letting you go." That was it. No thanks. No conversations. Just corporate wrapped in pity. I just sat there, staring at the screen like it had slapped me. I was furious, but the painkillers dulled it. Not just the meds in my veins. The betrayal did something worse. It numbed my belief in people. Then came the email notifications. Except they didn't come. I opened my inbox and was greeted with this: "Access denied. User no longer authorized." They wiped me like I was some corrupted file. But what they didn't know, I built the network's backdoors myself. They changed the locks, sure, but I still had blueprints. I could see patterns, vulnerabilities, ghost ports, and I knew something else. They didn't fire me because I was sick. They fired me because they were hiding something, and they needed me out of the way. All my life, I've solved threats, digital, external, logical. But this time, the virus was inside the house, and I wasn't going to walk away without exposing it. This wasn't just a termination. It was a cover-up. And if they want to play dirty, they just picked the wrong man to betray. I wasn't done. When I got back on my feet, I didn't go home. I didn't rest. I watched, quietly, patiently. Some men let betrayal break them. I let it sharpen me. My first call was to Jalen, a sharp kid who used to intern under me. Smart, loyal, a little paranoid, which made him perfect. I sent a coded message through an encrypted channel. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Kael," he said, almost like he didn't believe I was alive. "Still breathing." I replied, "Barely. Listen, I need you to check something. You heard of a project called Nova Shield?" There was a pause on the line. "Yeah, that's Veltrax's new flagship platform. Ultra secure, military-grade encryption, investor buzz, all that. Why?" I took a breath. "Because I wrote it 3 years ago." Another long pause. "No way." The next morning, Jalen sent over a data dump. I locked myself in a room and went through it like a madman. Presentation slides, system architecture, deployment logs. And there it was, my code, every line, every structure, even the naming conventions. They hadn't even tried to change the tags. It was like watching someone wear my skin and call it innovation. But what really got me was the patent filing. Filed under Rhett Vanner, that smug, clipboard-carrying junior who used to fetch me coffee. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. They took everything I'd spent years building and slapped someone else's name on it. But what they didn't know, Nova Shield wasn't just secure. It was alive. They stole what I built, but they missed the one thing hidden inside it. Me, buried deep in the code. I'd built a kill switch, something I called the Oblivion String, a self-locking mechanism that could crash the system from the inside if the wrong sequence was triggered. Only I knew it existed. Only I knew the string. Later that week, I contacted someone else. Laura, former systems engineer. Brilliant, cautious, and one of the few people I ever trusted. She picked up right away. "Kael," she said, "you're not dead." "Not even close," I said. "Listen, did they keep the Hydra sandbox?" There was a pause and a quiet, "Yeah, they're still using it. Nova Shield's entire base runs on it." I felt the heat rise in my chest. They built it on my sandbox. "Every line," she said. "Kael, what are you planning?" I looked out the window at the city skyline, the same skyline I helped keep secure with the very system they stole from me. "I'm not planning anything," I said. "I'm reclaiming what's mine." They took my code, my project, my job. What they left behind was a man with nothing to lose and a system wired to burn. After weeks of silent recovery, my mind was sharper than ever. The virus had tried to take me down, but it only fueled my fire. I wasn't just going to take this lying down. I sat in my small apartment, the hum of my old laptop the only sound. The room was cluttered with notes, flash drives, and half-empty coffee cups. But right now, none of that mattered. What mattered was one thing: the truth. I started gathering everything: legal documents, time-stamped email threads, backups of the original code bases I had written when I first designed Nova Shield. Every byte I had worked on, every line of code, was a piece of my life, stolen and sold by Sylvan and his cronies. I muttered to myself, they think this is over, that I'm gone. But they forgot one thing. I built this system from the ground up. I hold a master key. That's when I remembered Echidna, the fail-safe protocol I had embedded deep in Nova Shield's architecture years ago. A silent guardian, a sleeping beast, designed to protect the system from betrayal and theft. Just like this. I pulled up the code on my screen. The syntax felt like second nature. I smiled bitterly. "You wanted to steal my work, Sylvan? Let's see how you handle a system that fights back." But before I unleashed Echidna, I needed to make sure Sylvan understood the storm heading his way. I drafted an email. "Sylvan," I whispered aloud as I typed. I stayed silent, but the system won't. I paused. I imagined Sylvan reading this, his smug smile fading. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was my old friend and legal advisor, Jenna. I answered quickly, voice low. "Jenna, it's happening. I've got proof. The code, the patents, all theirs, but they stole it. And now, I'm about to turn their own system against them." Jenna's voice was steady. "Kael, you sure this won't backfire? You could end up losing everything." I clenched my jaw. I've lost enough already. This isn't just about revenge. It's about justice. They've crossed a line. I hit send on the email. The cursor blinked. Then, with a deep breath, I launched the Echidna protocol. Lines of code streamed past my screen like a digital avalanche. The system locking down, admin privileges revoked, encrypted fragments of stolen algorithms dumped publicly. The servers began to falter. I leaned back, exhausted but alive. Let's see how Sylvan handles a system that fights back. I said quietly, a grim satisfaction settling over me. The morning light barely touched my apartment as I sat staring at my laptop. Today was a day everything I worked for, everything stolen from me, would finally be exposed. My heart raced, but I kept my hand steady. This was not just about revenge. It was about justice. Across town, Sylvan Drake was gearing up to present Veltrax's latest software update to investors and board members. The company's future hinged on this presentation, but none of them knew that I held the key to their downfall. At precisely 10 a.m., just as Sylvan began his speech, the system froze. Monitors flickered and then went dark. A tense silence fell over the room, broken only by Sylvan's voice, sharp and panicked. "Retz, what's going on? Get the IT team here now. Fix it now." But there was no fix. The fail-safe code I had inserted years ago was now activated, locking down critical parts of the system. I could hear Sylvan's voice grow frantic over phone line. Where's Kael's encryption key? How do I override this? His desperation was palpable. What he didn't know was that I deleted every backdoor, every override, except the one I controlled. Minutes later, the chaos in the boardroom escalated. Shouts echoed down the halls. The company's elite were blindsided, powerless against a silent enemy. Then, as if the blackout wasn't enough, every investor, board member, and key stakeholder received the same email from me. The email subject line read, "Veltrax, the truth you deserve to know." Inside was everything. Detailed proof of stolen code and patents. Documentation of illegal filings made under Sylvan and Rhett's names. Evidence of security flaws that risked every client's data. A timeline showing how I had been systematically erased from all records. My phone buzzed incessantly. Messages flooded in. Some were furious, others shocked, and many from old allies finally ready to listen. One email stood out, from a former colleague who had been wary of Sylvan's moves. "Kael, this confirms everything we suspected. I'm with you. Let's bring them down." Back in the chaos, Sylvan's resignation announcement came swiftly. A humiliating end to a man who had once ruled the company like a king. Retz was detained soon after, facing charges of fraud and corporate espionage. Sitting alone, I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Deleting me was their first mistake. Underestimating me was their last. I knew the war wasn't over. Legal battles and media storms were sure to come. But this victory was mine. I reclaimed my voice. And from now on, anyone who tried to steal from me would know exactly what happened to those who crossed the line. The courtroom had become a battlefield, but this time, the fight was mine to win. Day after day, I sat through hearings and depositions, watching as my carefully gathered evidence dismantle their lies piece by piece. Sylvan and Retz threw every dirty trick in the book at me. Expensive lawyers, threats, and desperate public relations stunts. But I stayed focused. I had something far stronger than their smokescreens. The truth. One late afternoon, in a quiet conference room, my lawyer Samantha closed the thick case file and looked at me with a satisfied smile. "Kael, the ruling is in. You won. They owe you everything. Damages, lost wages, everything." I nodded slowly. That's good news, but it never was about the money. Samantha raised an eyebrow. Then what was it about? I leaned back, letting out a long breath. It was about respect, about making sure no one else falls victim to people like Sylvan. She smiled warmly. "So what's next? Back to the tech world?" I shook my head. "No, I'm done being a cog in someone else's machine. I'm starting something new, something that I control." 2 months later, I opened the doors to Moral Logic, my own cybersecurity consultancy. No more corporate espionage, no toxic CEOs. Just a small team dedicated to protecting clients who valued honesty and real security. I was finally free. One rainy evening, as I sat in my office reviewing a client report, my phone buzzed. It was an old friend and former colleague, Mark. "Kael, I saw the headlines," he said. "You crushed them in court. Ever think about telling your story to the world? Media, interviews make a real impact." I smiled faintly. "I've already made my statement. Through silence and action. Sometimes the loudest message isn't in shouting, but in simply surviving and thriving." Mark chuckled. "That's classic Kael. But hey, if you ever want to talk." Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A calm, cold voice spoke. "Kael Morrow, you played your hand well, but the real game is far from over." My grip tightened on the phone. "Who is this?" A slight pause, then the voice lowered to a whisper. "Someone you never expected. Someone who's been watching, waiting." The line went dead before I could say another word. I sat back in my chair, heart pounding. The storm I thought I had weathered was only the beginning. As the rain tapped against a window, I realized the next chapter was just about to unfold.